Check, check, check. That appears to be live. And Mr. Mayor, we're ready to proceed.
We will call the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, November 21st, 2024, to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Present.
Mayor Williams?
Here. No absent members. Mr. Manager, any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Brown to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If you're able, please join us to rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We've all had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from our November 7th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those as published?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Denning. All those in favor of approving the minutes from November 7th as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If there's any citizen joining us today in person who wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items, we have slips in the back. We've already had a few turned in. We will have those a little bit later in our meeting. So, moving along, Mr. Manager, we have looks like a liquor permit update from a place on Woodman. Please
Correct. This
inform
is-
us of that.
Thank you, sir. It's a simple transfer for the address at 499 Woodman. It's been reviewed by the police department, and there's no action recommended at this time. No red flags with this transfer. And so, unless you object, nothing that needs to be done.
All right, well, unless there's any comments from council members, we'll move along on our agenda. Hearing none, we'll go on to public comment for agenda items. I have two slips turned in for public comment on non-agenda items, but I'm just going to do one last check from the clerk. We
No
have
more.
nothing for agenda items. All right. We will move right along then to new business, of which we have an ordinance, and we have 5 resolutions for consideration and discussion tonight. The first ordinance, Mr. Manager, this is this a cleanup of our code?
Correct. This is pursuant to the voter approval of recent charter amendment changes as far as how we notify and advertise. We will now be able to use the city website using this proposed code change.
So move.
Second.
All right. The city charter allows for the reading of an ordinance to be of title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance 24-0-858 by title only?
Ordinance number 240858, an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 103 of the codified ordinances of the city of Riverside, Ohio.
All right. Any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. Motion carries, and that was the first reading of that ordinance. We will move along to our resolutions, of which, as I mentioned, we have a few. And the first resolution, Mr. Manager, 2988.
The first resolution is council adoption of the updated the updated master fee schedule, which now includes EMS billing fees. These were not on the first version that you all adopted. It does include the proposed increased rates that were described in the packet and discussed by Chief Miller as well.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Denning. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2988 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the next one, Mr. Manager, 2989.
This is a 10-month extension of the current moratorium for land use development. The reason for this request is that ZoneCo, which is our consulting company that's helping to rewrite the code, briefed the Planning Commission, I believe it was earlier this week, if I'm not getting my weeks mixed up. And so they are working on a first deliverable, and then we expect to have that come before council in January as far as the kind of code that they're recommending to be rewritten. Once council acts on that, it'll take about 8 to 10 months to actually rewrite the code in its entirety, hence the 10-month extension, which should take us through October of next year.
Move to approve. Second.
Before I call the question, I just one discussion point for the manager and maybe the law director. do we feel confident that the extension of 10 months would still keep us within bounds of not depriving anybody of any otherwise guaranteed rights for their property?
I believe we do, and in fact, if additional changes are warranted, then we can discuss those as those come up.
Mr. Mayor, I do from a legal perspective. I've reviewed the status of ZoneCo's engagement with public participation, where they are in their scope of work, and I'm confident that an extension of 10 months is legally supportable by relevant Ohio law.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, I appreciate that, and I want to make sure that we are not, and no one gets the impression that we're arbitrarily depriving anybody of their otherwise constitutional rights to their property. So I'll call the question. All those in favor of passing Resolution 24-R-2989 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The next one, Mr. Manager?
This is an updated abatement contractor with Elite Security and Maintenance Services. They were the most competitive out of the procurement process that Ms. Holt ran, and we're very comfortable with their services and happy to recommend them going forward.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Lomach and a second from Mr. Joseph. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2990 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And looks like another professional services contract, Mr. Manager?
This is with the Community Improvement Corporation, so our CIC, and I believe this was discussed at the work session as well. This is the professional services agreement. It basically establishes the formal relationship between the city and the CIC and describes the services that the CIC will provide.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from the Deputy Mayor. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2991 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the final resolution, Mr. Manager.
Final resolution is the updated contract for EMS billing services. So as folks may recall, I believe Chief Miller spoke to this last go-around. Our former service provider is no longer in the EMS billing market, and so Chief Miller ran a procurement and recommends moving forward with Medi-Account management to provide those services going forward for us.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Denning. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2992 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Well, that is the conclusion of our resolutions for this evening. We do have two folks who wish to speak on, or give public comment on non-agenda items. And before we call them up, our law director would like to say just a few words about public comment that might be relevant to people that are watching or people that have interest in giving those today or in the future. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just as a matter of housekeeping and best practice, periodic reminders for the viewing public at home and for any public comment in chambers, I think it's good to remind council of the rules that this council has set forth and adopted via bylaws and via the council handbook, which are structured after the Open Meetings Act under state law. These apply to everybody. These are not meant to give anybody any extra or limited time to speak. And the parameters set forth by the council handbook is to make sure that the public business on the agenda can be run in an orderly and efficient manner, which is guaranteed by the Open Meetings Act under state law. So council has adopted rules that allow public comment for a period of 3 minutes, that put some parameters on public comment to treat this as similar to a court or any other kind of public hearing. Use decorum, use appropriate language, and to express any thoughts, ideas, and concerns in a respectful manner. And if there's a 3-minute timer that goes off, it's no offense to anybody speaking based on the content or the delivery. It is simply the rules that apply to all comment to ensure agenda items can be completed promptly. And there's also rules and parameters to refrain from any disparaging comments about city staff or any public elected officials. It's really a time for those viewing at home that want to come to a meeting and express some thoughts and concerns about the city to all of you, to do that in a manner that falls in line with those parameters that are set forth within the council handbook and the bylaws, and it is based on state law. So it's always good to bring those reminders so the viewing public and any guests remember that this applies to everybody, and it's to keep the meeting moving efficiently and to allow those that wish to speak their due process right to do so in an orderly manner. Thank you, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, thank you, Mr. Miller. And I would just add on to that the First Amendment rights of everyone present are always in effect and always apply. However, as Mr. Miller said, this does run somewhat like a legal hearing, or what you might see from a legislative chamber at the State House or maybe in Congress, where we do have a responsibility to keep the order of the meeting going, and that falls on the parliamentarian, which is a fancy way of saying the guy with the gavel. So we certainly welcome public comment. We certainly want to hear what folks think. Even within the bounds of what's in our charter, we do ask if people have concerns. There are several forms of redress. You can contact the city manager, you can contact the law director, you can contact any one of us, but we certainly don't want to give anyone the impression that we're restricting speech. So I will now call to the podium our first speaker, which is Angel Patterson of 102 Prince Albert. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please, for the record, come to the podium if you would, and speak directly into the microphone so we can get the recording well. State your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and thank you for joining us.
I'm Angel Patterson, and I live at 102 Prince Albert Boulevard, Riverside. I am up here tonight because I would like to remind the council of your purpose. As stated yourselves, you are overseeing a business that provides critical services to an entire community of individuals. Paraphrasing Mr. Joseph from 2 weeks ago, this council comes together from different backgrounds and ideologies, and we keep national politics out of our decision-making. Moments after those words, a random, disgusting social media post was shared as part of the closing statements. This post had nothing to do with the city of Riverside and did not relate to the current business within the council. Another council member attempted to interrupt the dialogue by stating that the turn in conversation was inappropriate. She was correct. Just like what the modern media has been doing, that turn in conversation can be interpreted as divisive, and insightful while under a facade of protecting the people. Shortly thereafter, again, another council member chose to bring up national politics, stating that she is disappointed in the outcome of the presidential election and going on to talk about her history of being bullied and fears for the future. She continued to say that her own child has told her that her fears are not valid in today's society. The councilwoman chose to discredit the experiences of others in the present in favor of her own outdated experiences from the past. And she chose to do it publicly while actively engaged in her role as a public servant. There is a time and place to share personal political views. On duty as council members in an active city council meeting is neither the time nor the place. I am stating again, remember your purpose and keep national politics and personal feelings out of your role in city council. In closing, since I am not a council member, I would like to say that, unlike some of you, I am not worried about the national government protecting us, because the government that we the people have chosen will protect our constitutional rights to protect ourselves, speak out against childish local politicians like I am doing tonight, and to protect my daughter's safe spaces. And it will allow us to, again, feed and house ourselves through local manufacturing and gainful employment. Remember your place.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. And the second speaker tonight we have is Frida Patterson from 335 Marjorie. Frida, thank you for joining us this evening. If you could please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. The floor is
Frida
yours.
Patterson, 335 Marjorie Avenue, Riverside 45404. I am here to address face-to-face the council comments that were made after the presidential election. First, Zach's comments. I have witnessed you bashing MAGA supporters, your words exactly, for years now on your Facebook page. So your statements about unity are avoided by your previous statements made over and over again. And you bringing up a Facebook post posted by someone in West Carrollton on a Dayton Facebook group about gays and Jews was very disturbing. You just brought hate rhetoric into my city when I had not seen any in Riverside. Second, Brenda's. You more or less stated that now there will be bullying because Trump will be president. Since when does a president cause bullying in our schools? In your email reply to me, you stated it emboldens some to cause violence. Really? A few facts. In January 2020, the Israeli Prime Minister described Trump as the best friend Israel has ever had in the White House. Under Trump, the U.S. Embassy was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I admit that his personal beliefs on gays are at Christian values of marriage between a man and a woman. Note, his personal views. However, he is against hate ideology of gays, as has been mentioned over and over again about the mass shooting at the Pulse. He also stated that Elton John's relationship is a great one. Under Biden, there were riots in August of 2020. Buildings were burned and shootings occurred. In May of this year, there was violence at a pro-Palestinian protest. There have been many incidents of violence under Biden, so I guess he must embolden violence too. My point, I never blame Biden for the violence that occurred during his presidency, and to hear two of the representatives from my city imply that Trump will be the cause of violence is shameful. That sounds like hate speech to me. Trump was shot in an assassination attempt. A second attempt was also made on his life. Funny how they weren't Republicans, since you two only see Republicans as the violent lunatics. Violent lunatics are not of one political party. The problem is not who our president is, but they lacked respect for human life, period. Serial killers, Bundy, Republican; Gacy, Democrat; Kraft, Republican; Ponte, Democrat, just to name a few. To even suggest that hate speech, discrimination, and violence stem from one party only is completely incorrect. And for it to be implied sounds like discrimination and hate speech from you two. And to call people your friends, and then to call and ask for unity when you are calling out a specific party is disgusting. I have many Democratic and independent friends and family members. Note that I said have, not had. Is that my timer?
That is your timer, Frida.
Can I submit the rest? And may I just say on that, I don't feel it's fair that we had 3 minutes whenever several of you went over 4 minutes in your comments. I think we should have the same right, freedom of speech.
Thank you both for joining us this evening. We'll move on to the city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few updates and things to follow up on based on our prior work session. The first being that I had distributed the line items for the council budget per our discussion. I did get a couple comments back on that, but mostly just wanted to open the floor for any other comments, questions, concerns. Based on the questions that were asked, I did not, at this point, think that it would be, I didn't necessarily think that I was getting any direction to change anything substantively about the budget, but just wanted to be sure that that is the correct read based on the information that was provided.
We did have, I had a comment about the Dayton Chamber membership.
Yeah.
So, has anybody on this council attended a Dayton Chamber meeting as like a paying member?
Yeah. So,
And many of their functions I've attended.
yeah, and if you're not on the chamber email, it might come across a little bit as kind of salesy or something that a vendor might send because they have a lot of sponsors, they listen to their email. But they have legislative breakfast once a month that I've attended. I know Sarah's attended, Josh has attended. They have other functions that happen throughout the calendar year that folks are invited to, not just the city manager or the development director or the mayor. So I've attended, 6 or 7 chamber events in 2024. I don't know, I can't speak for everybody else, but I think the Dayton Chamber, and then there was also a question about the 70-75 membership. They also have monthly breakfasts, and Josh and I attended the last one last Friday where the bulk of the update was about the work that Riverside's doing on Woodman-Harshman. So, some of these local organizations, especially where there's networking and there's also places for our staff especially to connect with other people in the region and other real estate folks, I see that as a benefit, but that's my experience.
I can't disagree, because I think it's a part of being
Your 3 minutes is
a
up,
part
Sarah,
of the
sorry.
region. Huh?
I said your 3 minutes is up.
Oh, sorry.
I took 2 minutes and 45 seconds of it, but that was your 3 minutes.
I don't have any long thing to say. I have attended things for years downtown with the Dayton Chamber. And anyone sitting here is welcome to attend any of their functions. They're not, definitely not closed. They have many professional speakers that bring a lot of information to the region from,
That was just my question is.
Yeah.
Do we get anything out of it?
Yeah, and
I mean, because I had never heard any reports of anybody going to anything, and we have our own chamber, so it would look like a duplicate
Certainly.
situation, and with the amount that we were talking about, it was a reasonable question, I thought.
Brenda?
I was just going to say, it's good to take the opportunity in front of us to learn about the benefits of these memberships.
and please get on their website and their emails, and you're welcome to attend any of those events.
Yeah, I think that might be a good takeaway for the 7 of us, is to make sure that we're on the distribution list, because I had attended 70-75 development association meetings for years prior to being mayor, and I know Lori also attended a number of those as our economic development person. So I think that would be a good thing for the 7 of us to make sure we're all on those email lists. So if something does pop up, a lot of the folks, if you're taking advantage of the APA event in December at Sinclair, the Planning and Zoning Workshop, a lot of the folks you're going to run into there are also frequent at those events.
Right.
So it's good to get to know these people firsthand. And Vanessa Glotfelder at the Transportation Improvement District in Montgomery County, for example, building a relationship with her has really advanced the ability of Josh to get our project moved forward at a state and national level. And that's from a relationship. Obviously, it's a worthy project, but every community is going to tell you they have a worthy project. And I think us being able to build relationships with Vanessa, and then she has people that she works with at Wolpert who can advocate on our behalf also, those are some of the things that I think it is money well spent. But that's been my experience.
Well, it's also being part of a regional team, because we all have a vested interest in what goes on next door, whether it's northeast, south, or west. Being part of a regional team, and as the mayor said, getting to have relationships with people who can make things happen only happens through those events. You can't sit back in your shell and do it yourself.
And if you call those
That's not the way
person-
it works anymore.
You call those people for the first time when you need something, and they don't know you at all.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier to get that email get lost, or they
You
just
don't get a call back.
You don't get a call back.
Yeah. And I have had a lot of experiences because of MVRPC, but it's not that it's anything that I'm not willing to share, and I think we can make an effort to get more of that kind of
Yeah.
information out. So,
Is anybody, just by wondering, I know I'm attending the Planning and Zoning Workshop on the 6th. Is anybody else planning to attend that? Mike's
I'm
going.
going.
Sarah.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you can like dive,
It's a
if you
great
can, if
day.
you can pop in for lunch even and just say hi, it's a great event, but it's also a great place to meet folks and connect with folks.
and some
there's a
people
lot of
just
good
come for the morning.
Seminars.
Oh, the seminars are wonderful.
And some people come for those and have to go back to the office
Yeah.
at lunchtime or whatever, but I've been going to that for years.
Yeah, it's a great place to learn about a lot of the concepts that staff members deal with all day, but maybe we don't have the time or expertise or background to know a lot about that. But you can sit down for an hour in a big lecture hall at Sinclair and learn about these things, and I really enjoy it. But I'm a nerd just like Naya, so as planning nerds, we look forward to that. Yeah, grab your microphone, Naya.
Yeah, I'm on the board for planning that, and it's a great opportunity. They're having a mock planning and zoning, I'll call it hearing, for training boards and commissioners. They're also having the content creator for a zoning YouTube site who's going to be the keynote. I'm also giving a session. So, surprise. So if you're there and you want to connect with other council members in other cities, other people doing some of the same work that we're doing, it's just a great opportunity to learn and see what our neighbors are doing.
Well, and I'll just add to that, because it reminded me that our planning commission members are always invited to go and several attend.
Yes.
Our BZA members are always invited to attend and
Yeah.
many go. That's money incredibly well spent because those folks are volunteers. And the concepts that they're asked to adjudicate and give judgment on are not things that you could just find information
Know
on
about,
easily.
yeah.
And to get subject matter experts to give you that content is great.
A
There is
number
going to
of
be
them
a
are going,
session
right?
on, yes, they are.
Yeah.
All of Planning Commission and most of the BZA is going. There's going to be a session on infill housing and on doing a zoning code update and doing it right the first time. So we're in the midst of that process. So it's going to be some really good information available there.
Well, from the standpoint of specific questions on the council budget, not necessarily the city budget, but on the council budget itself, if we're going to have we have our first vote scheduled for the 5th, and then our second vote scheduled for the 19th.
Correct.
Zach, I'll just defer to you because you were the one who encouraged the 7 of us to get better acquainted with what's within our own budget as the council. Are there specific questions or things that you would like for us to know or for us to be comfortable with as we move forward with that vote for the things that the 7 of us actually here's what we think we're going to spend in '25?
No, I mean, Josh did a fantastic job with disseminating, and Ms. Baker as well, with the added information, disseminating actuals and then our budget for '24. So we looked at actuals in '22, actuals in '23, budget in '24. Any anomalies were explained in the email. I mean, there is an increase in the activities, but the activities line item, that's the most significant one, but that's because the clip rate of $5,000 a pop for the newsletter. We want to do 4 in the year, 1 a quarter. That's explainable. We can't really change council salaries or personnel items, so that's kind of set in stone. We discussed our memberships. We all had the one that anyone had a question on, we sat here as a deliberating body should and discussed that one item, cleared that up. There's nothing else in the budget that I'm seeing. I did have a quick, a thing with, Parks and Rec, but and if I was misunderstood that the, activities line was just for the newsletter. So there's not any extra fluctuation there.
Correct.
And dealing with kind of the structural issues that we have as a municipality, I think kind of
Well, in
doing
the-
our fair share of being tight and putting our belt just one rung to the left. We're doing our fair share here. Our budget's small. It's not complex, and I mean we're making the most with the little that we have been allotted. So
Yeah.
I have no concerns that we've had this deliberation that we know, and we can the 7 of us can sit here confidently and say I know what it costs to run a council. And as the 7 heads of a department, I mean, I feel good with where we're at.
No, I'm glad we had the discussion.
Prior lists, though, we always had lists on the budget showing who had, what the line items were and who
Yeah.
spent money
Well,
and.
Since Josh has been on, and I don't know when the change was, but we've removed the individual member line items for expenses. It's just our salary. I'm the one that takes into Social Security, not OPERS. I'm sorry for that one. It's cheaper. But other than that, other than our wages, we don't have, council as a whole, our expenses are grouped versus individualized.
Brenda, do you have anything on the specific question of the council budget, not the city budget, but sticking to this?
No, I think that, I do think it's helpful to review the memberships. One thing that I think a lot about is, when is it time to end a membership? These organizations, as long as they're useful, they're worth our money. But when they stop being useful, I think that we should feel at liberty to decide to not, because, when we engage in them, we're engaging in them financially and we're engaging in them with our time. I've spoken to Sarah about the first suburbs, and, Sarah at least feels that we should maintain that relationship. I could take it or leave it at this point.
And you were the essentially the council rep,
Yes.
council liaison, I should say.
Yes. So, I mean,
So you were on the inside.
I personally don't want to devote my time to that organization any longer. If I could see value if someone wanted to engage in those presentations and get value from them. But I think it needs to be someone besides me that sees the value in it, because I think, there's a lot of recycling of information, and if it's not a new person, then there's really no value.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good practice to do on an annual basis and just do an audit on ourselves, and are we using these things? And
So we're going to have to elect someone or
Yeah.
appoint someone. I share your sentiment on the few meetings that I've attended. Nothing against the organization. I just didn't find value in myself attending. Brenda's been leading up the charge for the last, since I've been on council. So if that's
Longer.
coming from you. I mean, April was the second, the backup usually, or the third or something. It was I think it's Sarah, me, April, and you, Brenda,
Well,
since
I've been to the
on.
last few meetings, and the one last night was about housing. I found it to be very interesting. And it just depends on who the speaker is. Last night, there was a lot of interaction, questions, and I think it's imperative to know what's going on in your neighbors, with your neighbors, and that's a different place to find that out, depending on who attends.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't, like last night, as Brenda said, it was a moved meeting because of Thanksgiving. So there were 8 different government agency, cities,
Municipalities.
whatever,
Yeah.
there. And it was a very, very nice presentation from the Housing Board. And if you're not nerdy about that stuff, as the mayor says, which I happen to be.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot out of last night's meeting, but I don't know that there's any organization that you go to all the time and think, oh, why am I here? I've sat through a lot of those too.
I-
But
I
But it's
think-
also the networking, right?
Well, I mean,
sometimes if you're not at the table,
So I've served as the vice chair for 2 years now, and it's very firmly planted in what it wants to be. And there's not, it's, at least right now,
As presently constituted.
as presently constituted, they're still trying to figure out how, as, people roll off and new people come on, like, how much do they want to look at being a more active organization?
Yeah.
But right now, I think they just want to be the presentations. And if we have people who want those presentations, then I think that, we're voting on the bylaws. The bylaws were updated. So previously, we needed to have 2 council members attending every meeting in order for them to have quorum. The bylaws update allow only 1 to attend every meeting to still fill quorum. So I would suggest if we have at least 1 person on council that intends to attend those meetings, then our participation in that organization wouldn't be a detriment.
Right.
But in the very recent past, with me being primarily the person that goes, we've been a detriment to that organization because we have not been able to meet quorum.
Okay. Well, that's useful information to have when we go through our organizational meeting in January and figure out who's going to represent us and where.
But I guess if we're looking at a budget, then, and a decision would be made in this meeting on, I guess, like a work session.
I don't know. I mean, we could leave it in the budget and not
Yeah.
necessarily spend it.
Yeah, if I can suggest, I was actually going to suggest that very thing, which is that it's a $250 membership, which in the grand scheme of the budget is minimal at best. So I would suggest, unless there's a motion to change anything about the council budget or anything else about the budget, I will proceed with finalizing it and getting that out the door for our next business meeting. And if you decide to change course, you can always do that at the first organizational meeting and either not renew the membership or proceed if somebody's interested.
All right.
But that does tee up one of the other items that was on my list, which is that there are bylaws changes for first suburbs that will be coming your way. I can hold those until February, since that's probably the best time to talk about that anyway.
They would like that done.
No, they want
Or
it
do they
done.
want that done now?
Yeah, they want
Okay.
it done now. We're one of the ones who have not done that.
All right, so I will.
Other municipalities have already done that.
Okay, I did get the email from Jack, so I'll be sure that all of you have that content then for the next business meeting. We can go ahead and tee that up. And on a similar note, there are requested changes from the ECID as well, which I believe it is a bylaw change that would allow other jurisdictions that are not contiguous to that district to join. I'll send you some information on that, but it appears to be a very procedural change. I think they want that by the end of the year as well. So I'll send you some information on those items. We did get some concerns about the viability of a meeting on December 12th. I think there's some other events going on that evening, so if you are all amenable, I'd look for a motion to cancel the work session on the
We
12th.
did already.
Did we already do that? I think we just
we
talked
talked
about
about
it.
it.
It was at the work session.
Move to
so we
cancel
didn't-
the December
We
12th.
didn't move.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from
Second.
Mr. Denning. All those in favor of canceling the December 12th work session for the city of Riverside signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
And the
Motion
la-
carries.
Last item, well, two other things. They're very, very brief.
The very brief city manager's
Promise they're brief.
reports.
So the first,
only
and
has
they're
one
very,
item.
very relevant. So the first
Oh,
is,
relevance.
we do have all of the no solicitation stickers in stock, and thank you to Katie for her design expertise on those. If you are on the current do not solicit list, you will be mailed a copy of that. I do want to advise folks that are watching that the way we update that list is if you've been on for 5 years, you roll off. So you might think you're on the list. Feel free to call and to verify that. We can work with you. But if you are interested in getting one and you don't get one in the mail, feel free to come by City Hall. They'll also be available at the police station. We will take them to events that we host. Chamber's got some as well. So we're going to do our part to get these out in a variety of methods and manners. But just so that folks are aware, they should get something in their mailbox if they're on the list here in the next couple weeks. And finally, just a thank you to the J.C.'s.
One thing, what are, okay, so if somebody has one of those on their door
Mhm.
and somebody still knocks
Mhm.
and starts, what is their next step?
It's very similar to, you can call dispatch and say, somebody is still knocking on my door in violation of the city ordinance, and let them know who you are, where you're at, what the person looks like. And then the process for the police department will be to respond to that and make sure if they see them doing it to other doors with stickers, that would be
Okay.
the
And,
opportunity to write a
I
ticket.
I think it's great that we're doing, but I think people need to know what the procedure is.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on my door, I still got people knocking on my door, what do I do? And the answer is,
You can
call the
dispatch.
non-emergency police number and get dispatch and have the police come out.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do think it's important to qualify, though, that if it's just somebody knocking at your door and you don't necessarily know why they're there, if they're there to, I don't know, if your dog got out or something, and they're there
Yeah,
for a
no, I
totally
get it.
different reason, you, as a resident, should do your part to be sure you know they're soliciting before you call dispatch. But if they are soliciting, call dispatch.
And something that I saw on Facebook as well, this is not banning Halloween or trick or treating as
Oh,
well,
no.
correct?
No.
Okay. I know that, I just wanted to clarify that.
Correct.
So,
Yes, that activity is still protected,
okay.
even with this ordinance change.
Okay.
Christmas carolers? You still sing?
If you're so inclined.
All right. Andy and I are going to go around serenading.
But last item was just another thank you to the J.C.'s for the employee luncheon earlier this week. I know we had a great turnout, and a lot of folks really, really enjoyed it, and I know they're very much looking forward to using that grill. So thank you again. That's all I have.
All right. Well, we will move on to council member comments. I'll start with Ms. Lomach.
I'm good.
Mr. Brown.
Just a couple things. Just did want to put a reminder out that we are having the 937 Barbershop is sponsoring a Winter Wonderland event this coming Sunday in the Airway Shopping Center. It's from 3 to 7. 2 inflatable playlands, a live DJ, face painting, 20-plus vendors, food trucks, carriage rides, carnival games, free pictures with Santa, and $2,500 in free gifts for kids while supplies last. So be sure to come out and support that if you get a chance to. And just want to say happy Thanksgiving to the city, and hope everybody has a good time with family. And that's it for me.
All right, Mr. Joseph?
Well, this is the last meeting before Thanksgiving, so I think I just want to say that there's a few people I'm thankful for. My husband, Austin, always supporting me, being gone every Thursday, a little bit later than after the meeting's over, because Brent and I are always out talking, so thank you for your support. My family, who's been supporting me throughout the years, definitely championed me on to get my degree this year and kind of living the crazy life that we've been living. Thank you for them. My friends, my huge support system at home, thank you for all of you. To my fellow members of council, on both sides of the aisle, I'm thankful for all of you. The partnership that we have, the working relationship that we all have, the level of decorum we are able to keep on a weekly basis. We see each other 3 times a month, right? And I think we've all said this before. Josh, you compliment us all the time, so thank you for that. This is a good group, so I'm thankful to all of you. To the community members, people I get to serve every day, Frida and Angel, you as well. I'm thankful for all of you, because at the end of the day, like, we don't, I at least, don't do it for the $333 a month. I do it for my family, my friends, and my neighbors. All of them, regardless of any individual circumstance, any qualifying factor about you. I serve everyone. So thank you.
Okay, we're going there again. I've got to interrupt. I'm sorry. Can we bypass this at this point, because this is continuing, which means I should be
Frida.
allowed to continue.
Frida,
Freedom
we're-
of speech.
I'm happy to speak, we're all happy to speak to you when the meeting's over.
I'm just
But I'm having to listen to the same thing again.
I'm just
We're
saying that I'm
going
thankful
back
for the
to this.
opportunity to get to serve my community. And lastly, staff. I'm thankful for all of you. You keep this body running, you keep the city moving. You're the ones that work here all day when we're only here one night a week. So thank you all for all the work that you do, the diligent work that you put in, and the kind of literal blood, sweat, and tears that you all pour into the city on a daily basis. So thank you all, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Happy holidays from me. On to Mr. Maxfield.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you to service that's out probably tonight with the snowplow, with the roads and everything, if they're out tonight. And police and fire braving the cold. Also, second what Andy says about the holiday spectacular this weekend. Good luck to the Mad River Indians who are going to Rocky Top this weekend. I know we had the opportunity to do that last year with our 6th grade football team, and it was a lot of fun, making really good memories. So good luck to them, and safe travels, and have fun. So happy Thanksgiving, and see you all next month.
Ms. Fry?
Our next blood drive is December 2nd. That is a Monday. The holidays are always a challenging time because people are busy. So if you do have free time to come out, we'll have the Bloodmobile in the parking lot. And to register to donate, it's donortime.com and search for City of Riverside.
All right, Mr. Denning.
Remember, Santa is riding in the fire fire truck on December 10th and 11th. Watch the fire department Facebook page to find the map. They can't, the answer is, they'll be doing, I don't know whether it's the north side or the south side the first night and the opposite the next night, but there will be maps out, and they are saying that they will have live Facebook updates so you know where they're at, so that people can come out and wave to Santa. And remember that Santa will be on the passenger side of the fire truck. I think that's about it.
Excellent. Well, with that being said, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:44 PM. Thank you, folks.